problem. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:42 p.m. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first thing is to amend the agenda.
I did get a list of liquor licenses that came in after the agenda went out. So if we want to consider approving the remainder on the list.
Under new business.
Under new
Why don't
business.
we stick that under there, liquor licenses? So we do need a motion.
Make a motion to amend the agenda.
I will second you, Mary. How do you vote? Aye. Emma?
Aye.
All right, so we're gonna add the new liquor licenses to the last order of new business. Next is to approve our previous minutes from the May 14th, 2025 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for May 14th, 2025.
I second.
All right, is there any discussion? Mary, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Emma?
Aye.
Excellent. I'm gonna say we don't have public comments because we don't have public. So let's jump right into new business. First up, we have a discussion and possible action item, Central Street health issue.
All right, this will be a discussion, not an action. Andy Vidapal, our health officer, was going to be here this evening, but he is also a paramedic in our fire department. He's out on calls. So he sent me a text saying he won't be able to make it. The purpose of that, though, is, in all my time here, I've never gone through this process, but the select board is also the health board. So if we're going to issue a health citation, it has to be a matter of both the health officer and the board. In the past, we've just prodded people along, and that's what's happening now. So just to give you an update, this is the trailer that there have been a lot of complaints about. Some neighbors have gotten involved and have taken the initiative to start cleaning it up. We've been monitoring that. We gave Andy, gave him 30 days to clean it up before getting a citation, and they've done a lot to bag up a lot of garbage. And they made a request that they would like some help paying to have the garbage removed. My response to, yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. Who did the health inspector make the request to clean up to? Like, is that the owner of the property, the people who are living there, the
Owner
neighbors?
is difficult. We'll say the primary resident.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
There's a lot going on there.
Right.
So the primary resident who is there, and this informed neighbor that is kind of leading the effort to get it cleaned up. What all of that means is neighbors are going onto the property with the consent of the owner to do the things they're doing, and he's in pretty poor health and is like, yeah, if you want to do that, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And what we've said is, if you continue to make progress, we can help, but you have 30 days to get it cleaned up. I've told Andy that I don't want to make any financial commitment until at least the 30 days is up, so it doesn't turn into, well, a town can just pay our garbage bill. But it has been very common for us in the past on other situations like this where we've put dumpsters on and said, okay, we'll do this one time, but if it happens again, we won't. So it's making progress on that front. There had also been a lot of public comment about, lack of initiative on our police department or on my department to take care of some of the activities that are going on there. Without going into a lot of detail, we have taken a lot of action. And I think, I don't know if I presented it to a couple of members of the board, and my direction was to, talk to your legislators because we're doing a lot and it doesn't go anywhere. A couple of our legislators were displeased with that, and kind of made the comment that what I needed to do is review our ordinances and update our charter so that we had strong enough rules to do that. I let them know that we had gone through that process with an attorney who made them as tight as they could to align with state statute. But the problem is when it goes to the courts, there's no enforcement. And without going into all the detail, the overriding issue is you can threaten whatever you want, whether it's money, citation. The courts have never said to us, you can go on private property and do something. That's where the line gets drawn, that they don't want, and I mean, you can reasonably agree or disagree with that, but that's where it comes to. We can say, we had almost $200,000 in fines against one property owner. We ended up getting 15,000 after several years of fighting back and forth, but that's where the line gets drawn. So, there had been an overdose death at the trailer. There had been gunshots at the trailer. And quite a few charges had been filed. Most of them had been dismissed. I don't have a direct cause and effect, but what I can tell you is whoever talked to who, when I spoke to our police chief, he let me know that the state's attorney has charged and put on $100,000 bail, which if anybody's been following law enforcement in Vermont, bail has been a very sticky issue. They don't like issuing that. So $100,000 bail, and the expectation with the evidence that has mounted up against them that at least the primary person is facing multiple years in jail. So that person is out of the trailer and not likely to return for some time. That is opposed to a notice to appear. That is the typical outcome when drugs, sales, or use are involved. So there's progress. It's getting cleaned up by the neighbors. The town is kind of waiting in the wings if we can do something to help. If it looks like it's going to be a permanent situation, the key player isn't active. My impression, though, is if you live down there or drive past down there, there's not something that's noticeably different. Now, instead of garbage being everywhere, there's garbage bags everywhere. I expect that there's still activity there that you wouldn't want in your neighbors. So we'll see how this progresses at a future meeting. It may even be a special meeting, depending on how it goes, and we'll pull the board together at Andy's direction and see if we need to. We take that angle to court versus the law enforcement angle.
My one question was, I was hoping Andy was going to be here. That's not my question. Is the trailer in the stage that it's in now, like it's being ran by a generator? I don't know because I haven't been inside, but I don't think the roof is in solid shape. Is it condemnable by the town? No.
It's this happens more than you would think. If you drive down River Street, you'll see at the house at the corner of River and Central Street, there's a great big hole in the roof. That's another property that we have been in the legal process with for quite some time. And I don't want to oversimplify things, but again, if they're choosing to live there like that, that's their choice. That's different when it's a non-owner occupied. Then if there's unsafe or unsanitary conditions, where it's much quicker to get a notice that everybody's got to get out at the landlord's expense, move them around. But there's a property down on Brook Road that it's in the same condition. We have a new one kind of starting that way. It's kind of up the hill from Mr. G's. There's a house that was been recently renovated across from Mr. G's. Not that one. There's another one. It's kind of, I think it's gray, maybe with a pink door. So the process is, here's what's going on. There's rats, there's garbage, there's a hole in the roof, rain's coming in. Okay. Court says, all right, did you tell me I have to clean it up? Yes, we did. All right, give them 30 days. Did you tell me I have to clean it up? Yes, we did. Probably the most egregious and longest lasting example is there was a property up on Route 4 by where the state highway garage is. There's a house tucked back in there. And you could see the sky through the roof. It got to the point where there was, two people living there. One of them was very immobile. And our fire department had to get an order to say, we will not go, if there's a fire, we will not come in. It's too dangerous for our staff to come in. So here's that notice to the residents here.
What about this trailer? Is it a fire hazard?
There's been so much else going on. We haven't done that. This was a house, this was just
Okay.
there, but we were getting frequent medical
Yeah.
calls and we finally had to say, we can't do this anymore.
Yes.
So this has been, when we go to this particular residence, it's in response to an overdose or something like that.
Gotcha.
And I don't like the trailer. I don't know. I know it's unsanitary. They don't have power. They don't have water. It's not the only property in town where people live without power and water.
Yep.
Everybody did up until 150 years ago, right? So
I guess I kind of wonder what does condemn a property? Like, when is it condemnable? When it's just like something's gonna
Well,
fall on you if you walked in,
I left
therefore
it
it's
at home. It
unsafe.
was in,
You know, like, what's the criteria
it was
for
in
that?
our section 101 of the,
Just out of curiosity,
I
you know, like,
because they actually, that's what, I can't believe I forgot that paper, but that's what I wanted to bring in tonight because they're violating every single thing in section 101. And I was like, how, and that's why I was curious if this could be condemned.
well,
me see
the
if I can
condemning,
pull it up.
like we've done it, like 54 Union Street condemned. That was tenants complaining about the condition. There were outdoor decks elevated off the top. There were holes in that. The foundation was kind of buckling in the basement. And Kevin McAllister, our fire chief, is a certified inspector. He went through the building, documented what was going on, filed that with the state. And the next day, all of the tenants had to be removed and it's been like now the town owns it.
so it's kind of like an accident waiting to happen, like
Right.
structurally too. It makes it more condemnable
Right.
rather than no running water, electricity.
But when we have a situation where, again, this is somewhat common, they don't pay the water bill. They do pay their electric bill because that gives them power, right?
Right.
So you see, a cluttered situation, unsafe structures, but there's electricity going through the house, kind of a fire hazard. We go through this more than people might imagine. Courts have never said you can kick somebody out of their house. You can condemn their house, but that's just not happened. And we spent lots of money going through the court systems. I'm not going to say we're super, not so aggressive that we spend extra lawyer money fighting the courts because it's not a surprise. There's kind of a routine to the whole thing. And not for nothing, you could drive around and see a lot of houses and you wonder, in Vermont or in New England in general, you go, wow, how do people survive a winter in that? And that's how it is. And just anecdotally to make it so it's not here, we have a home in New Jersey and our neighbor across the street was a hoarder. For years, we saw birds flying in and out of the roof. It was bad. The township, and they have somebody who drives around and says, you left your garbage out overnight. Here's a $50 ticket. You let your lawn get too high. Here's a $50 ticket. Like they have the enforcement people. They ended up making this person put up a 6-foot stockade fence around the back so that you couldn't see all of her stuff.
Wow.
But a couple of years ago, I saw them accompanied with a dumpster, pulling stuff out of the house. And it turned out there was no water in the house. There was power. A friend called and didn't get an answer. So they went and checked and they found the woman outside, unconscious and pretty much frozen. So she was taken away. And when the family found what was going on, they provided the access to get in there and clean it out. And then they sold the house. So this scenario isn't, unique to where from Windsor or Vermont or something like that. It's a pretty big step to say, we're going to go on your property, take your stuff because we don't like the way it looks. Essentially.
Right.
So the next steps are what? So at the 30-day point,
At the
which
30-day.
I think is at the end of this month sometime.
Yeah, it's.
Will they get, what happened?
What happens, we will, Andy will do an assessment, law enforcement is paying attention. If progress is being made, we will set additional goals. Essentially, that's what happens when you get a court. Say, well, we told them they had 30 days, they didn't clean it up, but did they do anything? Oh, yeah, it's better. Well, then give them another 30 days. So rather than pay the lawyers to do that, we will just be insistent on what's going on. And if it comes to a point where it just looks like there's no progress and that the only thing that's happening is illegal behaviors going on, unsanitary behaviors going on, and the town is showing up once a week and taking the garbage, we'll talk to the attorneys at that point and probably get this health thing, which will bring in the attorneys.
Emma?
I apologize if I missed this answer already, but like, who is the judge of that? And is there just appropriate documentation of like, this is what we saw. These are some pictures of what we saw. This was the time frame. Like we have that in case of potential litigation of someone being cranky. Although yeah, that's my question.
Andy Vitapal, the health officer, has that documentation. We have documentation of the visits, the conversations that have taken place, both with the residents and with the neighbors. Photos of sort of before and after, like showing this is this was what it was like on April 30th. This is what it was like on May 15th, that kind of stuff. So like I said, we've gone through this. We have the documentation that when we need to go to court, we have things to present. And the same thing happens usually without the health officer, more with the zoning administrator, where it's more of the junk ordinances.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I assumed that was already taken care of, but thank you for answering my question. I'm turning my camera back off. Love you guys.
All right, so
It's encouraging at least.
it is. I'm still confused on just, like what happens next and how long.
I mean, how long do you kind of
Yeah,
let it go? But if this ends at the end of the month, we're already at what's today, the 28th? So he'll go in and look at it again soon, right? And then we'll get recommendations.
Yeah, and I don't like pointing out individuals going through this stuff, but the Jam Fuels building, the old Spiral of Scutney, that's not a person, that was a company, and people owned it. But there wasn't the health concerns, but there was all kinds of violations going on up there. There was the big pile of asphalt tailings that weren't supposed to be there. They were conducting a business without a license. There were unregistered trucks. There was a lot of different things. A whole bunch of logs got there was just stuff going on. And that was well over 2 years of, you can't run that business. I'm not going to get a permit. It's none of your business what I'm doing. It was kind of like that. Like the government can't tell me what to do kind of thing. So that's where we were $200,000 in fines going through the courts. And I bring it up because it is the same process all the time. Here's the documentation. You take it to court. The judge says, okay, are you going to do better? Yes, sir, I'm going to do better. You come back, it's not any better, and fines continue to go, and eventually, I guess the judge gets a little more stern, and it's like, okay, now you have to do something, and that's where nothing really happened, but we were able, if you don't do something by this date, you have to pay $5,000 in fines. So that happened 3 times, and that's how we got to 15,000 out of 200, and things didn't get fair. Another side of the example, though, is where we had somebody who was much more agreeable to clean up their property. And it was almost as bad as the Central Street property, but it was less visible because it was out more rural. And we assisted, but we got the property completely cleaned up. And it was almost the next day when it started being cluttered up again. And we had gone through the whole thing. The owner has since died. There's substance abuse problems going on at the property. It's the same thing going on. Yet, and that's where we'll put a dumpster there, get what you can in. If you need it, we'll come down with a loader and, help. And it just falls apart. So.
All right, but progress is being made. Health inspector will be back. And so we may have to meet with the health inspector.
If Andy comes back and says, all right, I've given him every chance I can, we need to go to court and I need to issue a
Yep.
citation, and that has to come from the select board, then we
Okay,
can
so
call a
that's-
special meeting, put just that on it and get that done.
Okay.
So
Alright.
would it be okay if in the next month or two, because we only meet once a month, the next month,
Mhm.
we could just email you and say, hey, is there any updates? Because we won't see you as often.
That's true. Sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't want to oversimplify things, but drive by and look. Yeah. I mean, you can always let me know what's going on down there. If there is a significant step forward, I'll just email the board, say,
Yeah.
just so you know,
Yeah.
the town just
That would
paid
be
blank
great.
to get the garbage. Where something has changed. No, I'll let you know.
That would be great.
Sure.
Thank you. All right, I think we're up to liquor licenses.
We are, this was, I'll go down the list. This was only put in the packet today. Under consideration are American Crafted Spirits, that's Silo, Windsor Station, John P. Larkin, and Dollar General. And again,
We just vote him as a slate.
vote them as a slate, fire and police. There's no issues going on here.
Okay. So we just need a motion.
I'll make a motion to sign the liquor license, the slate. That
I-
was just,
Oh,
I think that was I second that. Was that?
Say that again?
that was this.
Did you say I second that?
Yeah, didn't Mary say she voted to
All
do it
right.
as a slate?
Is there any discussion?
Oh, I apologize. Oh my God.
Mary, how do you vote?
I,
Aye. Emma?
Okay. Aye.
All right, the liquor licenses have passed. Now we're gonna go into old business. First up, discussion item, V-Trans public outreach effort related to the replacement of the Route 5 bridge.
Correct. So we brought this up the last meeting, so I told business. We've confirmed the date as 6/24. That's the Tuesday before the next select board meeting, 6 PM at the Welcome Center. The state has provided some sample public outreach documentation. So we'll make that effort to get that out. I don't really have much more information on that. They say that they'll have a PowerPoint presentation to go over. I think the important thing to know is that's a town bridge. It's not a state bridge. They go through a public input process, but there will be a price tag to the town on what's going on. But this will be, I think, people like talking about aesthetics, but I think more of the focus may be on the practical matters of, so if we're going to do this bridge, how are you going to get from A to B? You can't go across a covered bridge with a truck, so how are we going to get around? Do you want us to do alternating one-way traffic and it'll take a year, or close the bridge and it'll take 4 months? Those kind of questions. And it doesn't all get decided now. We're still several years out from what that's happening, but I think they want to get a sense of how it all goes. And for the most part, I think where it starts out is kind of a cookie cutter process. There are bridges all over the state. Some of them have a lot of traffic, some of them have less traffic. So this helps them get more familiar with what the local impact is going to be.
Emma?
Just from my experience as a local person using that bridge, it was closed fairly recently, I think, in like the past year.
Yeah, last fall, they were, as part of this project, they had a truck that was reaching underneath it and doing an assessment of the condition of the undercarriage of the bridge. So
I would say,
I think,
well, I very regularly go back and forth on that bridge. It wasn't a prohibitive closure. it was not the best, but I do think that to get the bridge done the right way, that the closure might be okay, just as my opinion on that.
Well, if I recall, that it was closed during maybe 2 different weeks, and in each stage, one way was open. Like when they were doing the southbound lane, the northbound lane was open. And when they were doing the northbound lane, the southbound lane was open. So it wasn't alternating one way. They just said our truck's going to be parked in the lane. So the state put up signs at the 91 exits saying, hey, don't come this way, that kind of thing. But it wasn't completely closed. And that's the kind of the input though they'll be looking for at this meeting. Like, did that work out okay? I've gone through this once before and it really does. I don't know if it'll be the case now, but the difference between full closure and one-way closure speeds up the process quite a bit. So how badly you want to hurt really bad for a little bit or not as bad for a long time. So stay tuned, get a pretty bridge.
Yeah.
Just tell them to do it at night. No one's there. Neighbors may object to that as well. Okay.
Next up is a legislative update.
I think that's all you. Like, you've been up there talking to people, doing
did.
things.
So I previously had reached out to our legislators and senators for the first item on our discussion, the Central Street trailer. I don't know what to call it. And I've also spoke with people around town. Senator Elizabeth Burrows actually reached out and wanted to see if there was something they could do to Representative. It's been a really long day. Representative Elizabeth Burrows reached out and really wanted to see if there was something they could do to help. She had also seen the public kind of social media, whatever you want to call it. So she asked if I would come to the State House and give testimony to the Housing Committee on what's going on so they could see if they could help us. It sounds like they may be able to help us in the future. This would be next session, as this session's already yeah, so they're getting everything they need now though. And we had a good hour and 15-minute talk. I explained everything that's going on, what we've done, what's been done, and where we're at now. And they're going to bring in the VLCT and see if they can get something in place. So when we have a typical tax sale, which is where we're at now, and we're at the 2-year mark, but it takes about 3 years to get through that whole process. They're going to see if there's certain stipulations like the health boards involved, or, you know, whatever the stipulations are, you've become a nuisance, whatever it is, that there could be an expedited tax sale. So hopefully in the future, when we reach situations like this, because the Lord knows we will, that we could at least maybe do a little more than we've been able to do here. So I'm really hopeful. We'll see how that goes.
Okay,
Good job.
good job.
All
Have you
right.
done that before?
No, that was terrifying. I almost threw up at the head of the table. I was sweating so bad I couldn't even hold the pen.
I was trying to set it up that, you know, people are pretty nice and it seems kind of
No,
informal.
they were. Once we started talking and like they started asking questions, and I was like, okay, they're just, you know, normal people. But like you go in this room and everybody's super dressed up and they're sitting there and they're like, all right, so what brings you into? And I'm like, yeah, I've never done this. I don't even know what to say right now, and feel a little bit like throwing up. But I literally told him I was nervous, and by the end, I just thought these people are awesome. They were very down to earth and just like, it was like sitting in this room talking to you guys. It was okay.
And you powered through it, and that's important.
I did.
That's great.
Sometimes you got to be the change you want to see.
Just remember, it's those same people that put us in a situation we're in.
I know.
So it takes perseverance. It's, that's a nice angle to hear that maybe that they would consider extenuating circumstances rather
Yes.
than a blanket you can't do.
And they seemed to think that there was something they'd be able to come up with, and they wanted to bring the VLCT in to make sure that doing everything. So I'm hopeful. Elizabeth and, oh, there were so many people. I would have to look at my notes to see who the other woman was, but two of them are basically tackling this moving forward. And I'm hopeful for some updates that maybe, just maybe, it sounded like they were going to be able to help.
Good.
And several of the other legislators that were in the room, I'm pretty sure it was all of Vermont in the room. Like
All of what?
all of Vermont or most of Vermont, between all of the, not all of Vermont, but there was
There's a committee here.
there was a pretty
Right.
big chunk of Vermont. They were all like, I do this part, and I do this part, and I do this part. But several of them said that they were dealing with this same type of situation in their towns as well. So just want you to know we're not alone.
Maybe there's someone who likes it and we can just say, move there. Oh, good for you.
So now we're gonna switch from, let's see, Central Street and Route 5. We're gonna go down to the National Street house. What do we got going on National Street, Tom?
On National Street, I got
Taking a tour.
taken a tour. That's right. A more positive outlook, I suppose. I don't have as much to report as I thought I would. I have some updated paperwork, but basically an email saying that they have moved to the design. They're working on the specific designs for the house. So things that
Cool.
look like things, but I still don't have a contract, that kind of stuff. So no money's being spent, nothing's been signed. You have only authorized.
When do we get our fancy picture? Okay.
That's working.
I was gonna say, just to clarify, just for my own brain. So even when you get those things, we authorize you to do that, but you're not gonna go give them any money. Are we gonna vote again before you give them money? Or we went with our last vote saying, we authorize you to, so when the time comes, you just give them the money. And we hope that we have all the things that answer all our questions.
Well,
Does that make sense?
it does make sense.
How I worded it?
So, there's a couple things that I think should happen.
Okay.
You and I should meet privately.
Okay,
And you and I need a better understanding of what information, not just on this, but how is you're a new board member, what do you
Mhm.
expect from me and how all that stuff goes.
okay.
So
We can
what,
do that.
well, it's, because this is, like, simply put, the way things, I guess, have been gone on. And then I'm not immune to the comments that Tom is an authoritarian dictator that just does what he ever wants to do, you know, that happens. But vision implementation. So from where I'm sitting, this is a 8-year project that has been talked to death. And every single option that's possible, from knocking them down and leaving them vacant to giving them away, to selling them, to reconstruct, like all of that has already happened. And where we are now is we have what seems to be the most cost-effective, however you want to determine that, the solution to putting new housing there. So from where I am, who has been involved in it like 400 times more than you have, just over time, I have every answer, and not in my head, but I have everything satisfied, let's say. So I need more from you to understand, for you to get everything you need to say, I'm absolutely comfortable with moving forward, or you know what? I don't believe in this vision. I'm not going to do that. You know, I don't care what you say. I don't agree with this, or I need more. And the part where we have, as a board after board after board, been able to make it through with like very little dissent, is that a 3-2 vote is as good as a 5-0 vote. It's not supposed to be that everybody marches in lockstep to everything. So I would hope every board member, I'll use a off the reservation example, and that's, you think the whole neighborhood, it's in the flood zone, it should be taken down and we should turn that into a riverfront park. So there's nothing you can say, Tom. I don't care if they give us free houses. I'm opposed to that. And there's people in the community who would love to have a riverfront park. And that's what we're going to do. And if people move out, we want the town to buy the house. It's not about that vision.
Mhm.
So you get enough people to share that vision. And then my job then is to implement that vision. We have gone through the kind of that phase when we did the first house. Why are we spending money to do that? What's the point in all that? We go through the economic models and all of that kind of stuff. And will it work? And do we have problems with rents and all of that kind of stuff? So if you weren't asking, what I would say is I've come to you and I said, I have a price of this much money to build somewhere around 900 square foot house that's going to look pretty much like this picture. So do you want that or not? I don't want to come back to the board 6 times and say, well, I want different colors, I want different windows, I want, that doesn't happen. All that does is make it so that nothing ever happens and it costs more if something ever does. So I would say, if you weren't asking questions, it would be, yeah, I would come back and I would say, I now have the contract. It matches, the funding matches, the contract matches, everything is working out. So I'm telling you, I'm going to sign it. And if you want to vote to say don't, but I wouldn't come to you and ask you if I could sign it. I would inform you that I am and give you the opportunity to tell me no.
Okay.
If something of material changes, I would come back and say, this is how I presented it originally. This is something that has changed. That changed the dynamic. And that may be the case. Like I've told you that we would pay for this through our revolving loan funds. We've had to make a payment to the state that they didn't ask for. Now we've made a payment. We may not have enough money in the revolving loan fund. So I have to come back to you and say, we need to change the funding if we're going to proceed. And I would do that. I wouldn't sign it and go, well, it'll work out. So that's a rambling answer.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I think I'm fine setting up a time and coming in and chat.
Well, I've done that. I will say with every board member, when they come on, we've kind of just, you've been around different.
You're
Yeah.
right. But anyway, we did get together once, but it wasn't it was kind of a general talk, and now this is a little bit more specific. So
Well, I'm
not used to saying, hey, can I come in and talk to you? I just don't think
I have
about it
him every
that way,
week if
and
Yeah.
that has to do with being a new board member too.
well, that's, and Emma called me today with some questions. It doesn't happen all the time, but it's not uncommon. But things like this, like, well, I'll say there's 2 things. Don't call the highway department and say, somebody told me that you're never plowing their street. You call me and say, Tom, I had a constituent complain about the plowing, and then I'll work through it and get back to you.
Sure.
But if you have, say, a vision question, like, I really don't understand the summer program for the rec department. Don't call James, the rec guy, call me and I'll set up a meeting. So you can find out more, but you will always be given the opportunity to find out more. And if I can't give you that detail, I connect you with the employee that can.
Emma?
I think she's just back.
Actually, Tom, I did have something to say. No, I would like to reiterate, because I know I've spoken about this before, but I do really believe in this housing project and I think it is worth it. And I am very nervous about the draining of the revolving loan fund, but I do think that this is the right choice. And I would like to speak to that in this moment.
Oh, noted.
Say that again.
Did you hear what you just did? Yeah.
That's because my mom is texting me. She's graduating tomorrow, so she's very. So you might hear many bzz bzz if
I thought you were playing that surgery game and it was like,
No, it's my mama. It's my mama. Anyway, that's how I feel about that. Thank you, guys.
I think it's a good thing. I remember my grandmother telling me, sometimes you have to spend money to make money. I'm not saying that we're going to make you know,
You're right.
but I'm
I
just
get that.
saying,
I just,
it's gonna be
I-
2 new houses in Windsor. And I guarantee you they'll be filled the second, you know, like, I think ultimately it's gonna,
it's just new to me and I
Yeah.
want to really
it's a lot.
feel
It's a
like
lot of money.
I'm just sort of in the middle and I just have all these questions. So I don't have a problem coming in and kind of sussing it out a bit.
All right, well, I'll send you an email
Alright.
tomorrow. We'll set something up. I think since the last meeting, I let some of the state people who've been watching this know that the vote happened at the last one. And one state agency said, well, we really need to see more information because, you know, we just can't figure out how to do it for less than like 525,000. And, you know, when that apartment building that they're building is 525 or 550 a unit, you usually when government gets involved, not to throw rocks at government, but there's a lot of extraneous costs that get thrown in because of different considerations and stuff. So anyway, there's a number of different folks at the state level that are paying attention to see if this works because they would really like it to work. And I don't know that everybody gets the same price we're talking about, but if we're talking 225 and somebody else is talking 525, there's a lot of space in there.
Yeah.
So, and we do have the sites done and it's connected to water and sewer and there's, you know, there's a lot of that development costs and it's floodway foundation, not a complete foundation. So they're that thing, but still it's creating some excitement given the housing condition that we have.
That's pretty cool. So this could possibly help, if this works out, this could help other communities kind of get the same thing
And
in a way, obviously.
oh yeah,
not
I
from
think so.
the same person.
I think in not to get, you know, too far out ahead, but I think just what's I've been able to get out of what's going on in the market, labor shortages, availability of skilled labor, escalating costs, that the notion of pre-built homes. And I mean, LaValleys has been doing that kind of thing. There's a couple of companies, you know, in the area that have done that. But I would say that that was a small segment of the building trades, that this may become the bigger segment, that as they improve their technologies to change floor plans and be able to offer different things, that this kind of proof of concept can be something that says, I will buy that house for whether it's 225 or 825,000. I'm going to give you the check. This is what it's going to look like, and it's going to be on my lot in 18 months. I can live with that a lot more than giving you a $40,000 deposit and hope you show up to build the house that you said you were going to build.
Any other questions or comments?
I have no financial stake in any of this, just to be clear.
You ready for the town manager's report?
I am.
Excited about number one.
Well, go. So, we have signed a contract to go with a company called Civic Plus to design and implement our website. So Cliff McNaughton was involved early on, so was Marco Vasquez. Marco manages our social media. Marco is familiar with Civic Plus specifically. Cliff is familiar with web design and implementation and use, that kind of thing. So they were very helpful as we were going through the selection process. And there's a lot of, like, well, buy the, you pay $1.99 for the basic thing, and then you get beat to death with all the options. So they were pretty good at narrowing down what we would really need and how we could implement that. So the expectation is having the new site ready to go. I'm gonna say no later than August. Like, they're working on the development side now. It'll look better. It will search better. It be friendlier. There's
User friendly?
user friendlier, and you know, whether or not it matters or not, if you're just interested to see what it's like, Hartford uses it, Lebanon using it, Weathersfield uses it. And I've already talked to Brandon down in Weathersfield is, maybe we could work out a shared arrangement for some management oversight, little like somebody to keep on top of things. But the build out that we're looking at is take a look at their general concept. And then we have a lot of modules that have happened over time that we're not changing or incorporating, which is one of the selling features here, like the online payments. We'll be using our same online payment. The MyRec will be using the same thing, but it'll be incorporated into this website. Something that I think I'll do an around Windsor thing on is with the last revaluation, what could be a pretty significant change to the public, it certainly is to the real estate trades, is now all of our assessors' tax maps are available online. So you go to the website, go to the assessors page, you go to tax maps. Well, it used to have copies of the maps that are here and you'd have to look through it all. Now you get basically your property card comes up. It tells you property lines, assessed values, over the last decades, that kind of thing. So now that's one more records thing that's available online. Our clerk's records are available online. That's something that's available. Again, the real estate trades, if people want to search records, do that. There's a fee for the professionals to do that. So we can now kind of bring all of that stuff together and say, you can register for summer camp online. You can pay for it online. You can look to see what your neighbor's house you think you got beat up in that last reval. Go look to see if somebody else got beat up in a reval. Where I find it very helpful is, just in the last couple of weeks, somebody had a tree that they were concerned about and said, how would I know where my property line is? We don't have a survey. Can you kind of ballpark it? I told you, look here, you know where the tree is. Here's your property card. So it's when you need it, it's handy. If you've never needed it, you wouldn't know. But I think this platform will help navigate all of those kind of online systems a bit better.
That's great.
Yeah. Okay. That's all of my notes for that. So we'll be testing it internally. Marco will be meeting with all of the employees individually on how to implement their particular components and keeping them up to date. We'll figure out how to get up all of the archive documents that are on there. We'll keep what we have archived, so like that doesn't go away. But we'll have like maybe the last year's worth of stuff, something like that.
Is it a different website or is it still?
It will look completely different.
Well, I get that.
WindsorBP.org will be the address.
So it's still the same.
Yeah.
URL or what?
Whatever that is.
I'm not very techie, but
I-
same address.
Okay. Well, a new problem that came up the other day is our finance offices. People keep calling and asking me about our ambulance service. And somewhere, like if you put Windsor ambulance service in Google, like I don't know how long it's been going on. It's been a while, but it's not like you go to a page, a little thing comes up, said, here's the hours of operation. You do it for a restaurant. Here's our menu. Here's all that kind of stuff. Well, Windsor ambulance comes up and it says, phone numbers, and it lists a phone number that we don't know. It's always been our finance office, but
Weird.
so called the IT people and they said, hey, they can suggest an edit to Google. So they've done that. So, and it's not that uncommon for someone to come in and say, hey, I pulled up that document on the website. But if it was ever out there, I guess it's still out there, particularly something that, like, let's say you wanted to see the budget would be an easy example. And you say, I want a Windsor budget. Well, maybe it's going to pull out the budget from 2018, or maybe it's going to pull one out from 2025. Like that, all of that legacy information can be found out there someplace.
And do you know how many other Windsors there are? You can't just put in Windsor. They all come up.
We were getting a lot of calls about what the pool hours were. We don't have a pool, we have a lake, and you can go to it whenever you want at your own risk. Well, it turns out Windsor, Colorado has a pretty nice rec department. They have a big pool. And, but Windsor, Vermont would come up closer to the top more frequently.
Yep.
And people, oh, it's Windsor. Sometimes we get calls for the king.
Sometimes
that often.
Google does weird things like that because I have done that and call the place. I'm looking for a certain place and then I call and they're like, we don't do that. And I'm like, well, Google says you do. Like,
Okay. But I'll let you know when we're doing it behind the scenes. You guys can play with it when I get.
yeah, I want to check it out.
Sure.
Do we get to be some of the testers?
You did.
To test.
Okay. Welcome Center projects. Right now, we are changing the lighting on the inside. If you've ever gone there and started a meeting and it's those, whatever the
dark.
kind of lights are and it takes a while for them to turn on, that kind of thing. So they were original to the renovations back in 2009 or 10. And, we have a master electrician on staff with our, utilities department. And he's doing some side work to, change those out to LED, so they're more energy efficient, brighter and all that kind of stuff. But so that's working through there. So that's an improvement. I signed a contract to have it painted this summer on the outside. So that's coming through our capital budget. So the building will be painted the same color that it is, for better or for worse.
Just a new code.
Yes, again, my authoritarian, I don't want to sit through a meeting, either at home or at work to try to discuss colors.
Yeah. I
Um,
think that color is good down there.
I think it makes a statement.
It
I like it.
definitely does.
And,
Monty.
should our highway guys have so a downtime, usually every few years ago when we paint the concrete walls around the outside,
Oh,
and the steel beams need to be like sandblasted or something. There's some graffiti that was painted over a long time ago up there. So anyway, it'll get spruced up. The only thing that's not on the list is the flooring, and it's expensive and it's a hassle. So we do clean it at least once a year, carpet cleaning and that kind of stuff. But I figure the outside needs to be taken care of, or it'll get to a point where it's going to be way expensive to do it. That's what's going on at the Welcome Center.
nice.
Picnic pavilion at Kennedy Pond. So this has been on the wish list for the rec department for some time. And they had been looking for around. They found a local contractor that had a kit. I think that was purchased by somebody else and then not used. So it was available now. And it's being paid for through some of the ARPA money that was set aside for and the Friends of Rec that does a group. They do. When you say you can't raise money,
Amazing.
Friends of Rec raises money for, most recently, all the new backboards in the gym, things like that. When they put the word out, they do it. So anyway, so this will be a covered picnic pavilion. I know there's a neighbor who is less than pleased with its placement because it impacts the view. This document is in the packet. I'll show it to you folks. This is the flood map. Wherever there's the red lines, that's in the flood zone, so we can't build it in the flood zone.
That
So
was
it's getting built right there. So aside from it's also by where a lot of the people congregate,
Yeah.
that's the location.
I think it's going to be beautiful.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, so that's,
I
they're,
think they're gonna love it.
yeah. I remember, what was it, 3 years now? When I was doing the playground project and I was working with James and the whole rec department. We had some long conversations about the pavilion that he wanted so bad down at Kennedy's Pond. And he told me about this. Like when I saw that it was coming, I was like, they're finally getting it because he has visioned this for so long. So I'm just glad to see that,
It's happening.
like it's something they've talked about, as with anything, for a long time, but now it's actually happening.
I think that's,
Look at all these things that are actually happening.
it's true. And again, when he found that this was available now, we would have it installed before the lake opens for
That's
swimming, really.
Yeah.
He jumped on that. So
Wow.
very proactive about it and he's been managing it well.
I can't wait to see it when it's finished.
Okay. And that's it.
All right, so do we have orders to sign today?
We
I
do.
think we do.
I'm going to make a suggestion. We'll see if it works or not, but if Emma is agreeable, maybe if Emma authorizes Tara to sign it on her behalf, like if you just write, Emma, and then write your initials next to it so that we have a record, the three of them, or we can just do it the minutes, and attach the minutes to it as well.
No, Tara, you can do it. Just make sure you do it in script and make sure you do a heart over some letter, even though no letters in my
Okay.
name like deserve a heart. Thank you.
Well, I will make one especially for your name.
I guess I want to say you're welcome. No, just kidding. Thank you, Tara.
You're welcome. So I'll sign my name and then I'll put Emma Caffrey with my initials on the same. Okay.
We need a
And a
motion.
heart shape.
We do need a motion to sign the orders, yes.
All right, I'll make a motion that we sign the orders.
I second.
Any discussion? Mary, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Emma,
Aye.
we are signing some orders. We don't have any public, so we don't have public comments for items not on the agenda. And I guess we can do our board member comments while we sign orders. There's only two of us, so it ought to go.
fast. If one of you gets to sign the parking,
You want to fight
Dismissed?
for it?
and then.
No,
this
I
is-
actually have a board member comment.
This is what we'd like
What do you
to-
got, Emma?
I would like to really give some kudos to Tom because I called him about some silly graffiti in town and Tom handled it very quickly and studiously, and I really appreciate it because it was not great graffiti to have in a town. So thank you, Tom, and thank you to the highway department that I think may or may not have helped expunge. So thank you, Tom. I appreciate you. I think I called you, you immediately answered, and you immediately went down to the scene to check out what was going on. So I appreciate your time and your effort and your energy, and I would like to call you out for that in a good way.
Thank you. And I will pass your thanks along to the highway crew, because I know they did go down and check it out. I don't know what they did to get rid of it, but anyway, I'll let them know. Thanks.
An effort was made. I appreciate it. And thank you, Tom, for orchestrating that.
You got a comment? Oh, I lost one.
Seeing there is no public here, my agenda for tonight is to encourage people to become engaged in their local government, to think about volunteering and all of the opportunities that Windsor offers. I know life is really busy for everyone, but becoming involved in the community is very rewarding, as well as fostering personal connections with other people in the community. So that's going to be my calling card, most meetings for comments.
That's a good one, Mary. We're going to be switching to our once a month meetings here. So for the next 3 months, the select board will meet the fourth Wednesday of the month. I didn't even know what day it was. And that's all I've got. So I'm gonna call this meeting at 7:40.